Hi friends, today we're rescuing this old board book cover from the trash pile and turning it into a keepsake for my son Bonecrusher. We recently had a one-on-one day with art, library, games, and ice cream. Basically a 7-year-old executive's agenda. So I'm turning that memory into a pop art mixed media inspired piece. First, I'm covering the board book with gesso. This gesso does a couple things. It covers up the original artwork, but it also gives the surface a little bit of tooth so the paper medium is something to grab onto later. Without this, the slick board book cover would probably just laugh at me and reject all of my artistic intentions, and honestly, that's so rude. So we gesso. For the background, I went something bright, bold, and pop art inspired because Bonecrusher really likes bright colors, abstract art, and that fun comic book kind of energy. So I've created a black and white pop art design that uses an inkjet transfer on a gel plate. You place it face down on the gel plate, rub it gently, and then peel the paper away. The outline is left behind. This is one of those moments in gel printing when you either feel like a wizard, or like a person who's made some mysterious mistake and now you just pretend it was intentional. Thankfully, this one worked out really well. Now to push this pop art feel even further, I'm adding a stencil layer with bright pink craft paint. Yes, I'm using craft paint here. Don't hate me. I know there are some paint snobs out there that just cringe when I say that, but this is not a piece that I'm selling. Nope. This is going to be something just for my family, so I'm not worried about using the fanciest paint in the studio. Craft paint is affordable, it's easy to find, and perfect for experimenting with or to make art with kids. So when you're doing art projects with children, you don't want to use supplies that make you whisper, please don't waste that every 12 seconds. That takes the joy right out of it. So craft paint. Budget friendly, kid friendly, emotionally safer. So I'm now rolling the paint over the stencil with a brayer, trying to get a nice even layer. Then I'll lift that stencil just to see how it all looks. I clean off the excess paint just on the side. Let's lift this up and voila. At this point, that background already has a fun pop art look. It's bold, graphic, and just a little chaotic, which honestly feels accurate for a day out with my kids. Next, I'm going to bring in a sheet of watercolor paper that I had already painted with bright colors. This is going to be the colorful base for the final background. So to pull that image from the plate, I'm going to use clear matte acrylic medium. When it first goes on, it does look white, but it dries clear. It works almost like glue, and in this case, it becomes the lift layer that helps pull all those gel paint layers from the plate onto the painted paper. You only need a thin layer here. If you use too much, things can get slippery, squishy, and dramatic. And I already have enough drama in my life. I have 3 sons. So after rolling out that thin coat, you place the painted watercolor paper down, like face down, and smooth it over the plate. I'm not worrying too much about lining it up perfectly because this is a memory piece, not a NASA docking maneuver. I just eyeball it and as you trust the process, which is really artist language for let's see what happens. I am going to let this set for a while so it has time to dry fully and I can pull it more cleanly. And so while I'm doing that, I'm going to move on to the smaller gel plate to work on the photo elements I want to add. I printed 2 black and white images on brochure paper, and one is a picture of the big abstract sculpture outside the art museum. So here, let me show you what that looks like. It's a really interesting, large abstract sculpture, and unfortunately I don't remember the name of it or who it's by. Sorry. The second picture is one of Bonecrusher eating ice cream at a Baskin Robbins while wearing a dinosaur hat, which is honestly the kind of fashion confidence I aspire to. The brochure paper works well for these transfer because the ink sits on the surface enough to release onto the gel plate. I put the images face down, rub them gently, and after a short time, you peel it back, and there they are. The images have transferred onto the gel plate. So cool. You may have noticed there was already an image of a fist that was hanging around on that gel plate from a previous project, and that's okay, because gel plates are like studio ghosts. They may remember things. Usually they don't cause too much trouble. Now I want to add a little extra pop to the photo transfers. So I'm using acrylic paint markers to highlight a few areas. I'm going to color in the dinosaur hat that he's wearing. I'm going to later on add some details to Bonecrusher's shirt, and maybe I'm going to also add some gray or silver tone to the sculpture so it stands out more against the bright pop art background. Forgive me, I'm not going to show every second of coloring because, let's be honest, watching someone color tiny sections of a transfer in real time can start to feel like waiting for toast. Important work? Yep. Riveting cinema? Maybe not. Once that layer is ready, I'm pulling the smaller photo transfer. For these multi-layer gel prints, I often like to peel the gel plate from the paper rather than peeling the paper away from the gel plate. It gives me a little more control, especially when there are multiple layers involved. For this pull, I use a soft peachy color with a little mica powder, and that gives the image a subtle warmth and shimmer without overpowering the black and white photo details. And when I peel it back, you can see that the image is transferred onto the paper. Is it perfectly straight? No. Is it a little wonky? Absolutely. That's part of the charm. Handmade art should have a little evidence that a human was involved. If I wanted perfect, I would have asked a machine. If I wanted personality, I came to the studio. I let this one sit for a while. It's probably 3 or 4 hours. Was in the middle of this art project. I went to my mom's house and worked on a shower head because apparently my creative process includes plumbing. After letting it dry, I'm going to slowly peel the gel plate away from the paper. And this is the part where all the layers finally reveal themselves. The bright painted background, the pink stencil pattern, and the black pop art line work. I really love how this turned out. You see, originally I debated whether to keep the background as one whole sheet or to cut it into pieces for more of a collage feel. And in the end, I did decide to cut it up because it gave me more control over the composition, and it helped the final piece feel more like a comic book memory board with different panels from the day all coming together. So I'm going to add matte medium to the gessoed board book cover so I can glue that background pieces down. Again, you have to use a thin layer. That medium works really well as an adhesive here, and it helps everything feel more integrated once it dries. Oh, oops. You may hear kid noise in the background. That is not a production mistake. That is the authentic soundtrack of Daystorm Studio. Some studios have calming music and perfect lighting. Mine has mystery crashes, snack negotiations, smackdowns, and someone yelling about dinosaurs from another room. Well, occasional smackdowns. Once the background pieces are down, I do want to start to add any photo elements. I'll add Bonecrusher with his ice cream and dinosaur hat and the sculpture from the art museum. After everything's assembled, I'm going to use a black acrylic paint marker to outline the photos and some of the background areas to help separate everything and give more of a comic panel feel, and also to help it stand out from the busy background. Once everything is dry, I will add a thin coat of Mod Podge of the whole piece to help seal it, give it a more unified finish, and to make it feel good to the touch, which is going to matter because this is for my son, and he's going to pick it up, look at it, and touch it, and hopefully remember the day that we spent together, because that's really the whole point of this project, preserving that memory for him. And I think it turned out really fun with it being, it's bright, it's personal, a little strange. It feels much like Bonecrusher. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have a great day.